The wedding reception buzzed with elegance at the downtown art museum. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the marble floors where my stepdaughter Sarah danced with her new husband. I adjusted my conservative navy dress, the same one I wore under my judicial robes, and watched my husband Thomas beam with pride. That's when I noticed his ex-wife, Patricia, wobbling toward the microphone, champagne glass in hand. The wedding planner's eyes widened in alarm. We hadn't scheduled any more speeches. Testing, testing, Patricia's voice echoed through the hall. The string quartet stopped playing. I know I wasn't asked to make a toast, but as Sarah's real mother, I have some wisdom to share. Thomas tensed beside me. Diana, I'm so sorry. I should stop her. I placed my hand on his arm. Let her speak. This could be interesting. Patricia smoothed her too-tight designer dress, clearly bought for a woman half her age. My darling Sarah, watching you marry today brings back memories of my own marriages. Some happy, some. She shot me a venomous look, tainted by home-wrecking gold diggers. A collective gasp rippled through the guests. Sarah's face flushed with embarrassment. Her new husband pulled her closer. You see, sweetheart, some women will do anything for money. They'll pretend to be all proper and professional. Patricia's words slurred slightly. They'll even become judges to seem respectable. But deep down, they're just hunting for wealthy men. If only she knew that my judicial salary far exceeded Thomas's professor income. But I kept my face neutral, the same expression I wore on the bench. Take your current stepmother, for example. Patricia gestured wildly toward me, sloshing champagne. She may act all dignified now, but she swooped in the moment your father and I had problems. Probably planned it all along. Actually, I met Thomas 2 years after their divorce, at a legal education conference where we were both speakers. But Patricia preferred her own version of history. So remember, darling, watch out for women like her. Women who hide behind fancy careers while plotting to steal husbands. Thomas started to stand, but I squeezed his hand. The room had grown uncomfortably quiet except for Patricia's voice and the clicking of phone cameras. Tomorrow's legal community gossip would be interesting. At least I'm honest about who I am, Patricia continued. Speaking of honesty, did your father tell you he's my 4th husband, or that I'm in the middle of divorcing number 5? She laughed. But don't worry, Richard's loaded. I'll get a fortune in the settlement. I bit back a smile. Patricia had no idea I'd been assigned to her divorce case just yesterday. Her soon-to-be ex, Richard, had ironclad prenuptial agreements, and her claims of hidden assets were looking increasingly dubious. Mrs. Harrison, the wedding planner, finally approached Patricia. Perhaps we should let the band resume. Don't interrupt me, Patricia snapped. I'm giving motherly advice here. Sarah needs to know how some women operate, like the judge who thinks she's too good for our social circle, who probably married Thomas for his family connections. Thomas's family was indeed well connected to the local food bank where they volunteered. I'd grown up in a wealthy family myself, but Patricia had never bothered to learn my background. You know what I heard? Patricia's voice turned conspiratorial. Little Miss Perfect Judge used to be a waitress in law school, probably where she learned to hunt for rich men. Actually, I'd owned the restaurant, using my trust fund to help put myself through law school. But again, Patricia preferred her assumptions. Sarah finally broke away from her husband and approached the microphone. Mom, that's enough. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm trying to protect you. These career women who marry divorced men, they're all the same. Gold diggers in judges' robes. The wedding planner gestured to security. 2 discreet men in suits started moving toward Patricia. Fine. Patricia raised her glass. To the happy couple, and to their gold-digging stepmother. Hope you're enjoying my leftovers, Your Honor. As security escorted her out, I maintained my composed expression. The same one I'd wear tomorrow when Patricia entered my courtroom, unaware that her drunken speech had been witnessed by the judge handling her divorce. Mom, I'm so sorry, Sarah hugged me, tears in her eyes. I should have known she'd do something like this. It's fine, sweetheart. I smoothed her hair. Nothing can ruin your beautiful day. Thomas looked devastated. Diana, what she said about you is about to become very relevant to her divorce case. I smiled slightly, especially the part about Richard being loaded and her expecting a fortune in the settlement. Sarah's eyes widened. Wait, are you handling her divorce? As of yesterday, she doesn't know yet. I checked my watch. Her hearing is at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Should be interesting when she realizes who's behind the bench. Oh my God, Sarah started laughing. That's perfect. Indeed, I straightened my pearls. Now shall we get back to celebrating your wedding? I believe your father owes me a dance. As Thomas led me to the dance floor, the string quartet resumed playing. Guests gradually returned to celebrating, though I noticed plenty of phones still recording. No doubt the legal community would be buzzing tomorrow. You're taking this remarkably well, Thomas murmured as we danced. Let's just say Karma sometimes wears a black robe. I smiled. Now, should we tell her about buying her favorite country club next month, or save that surprise for another day? The night continued beautifully after Patricia's exit. Sarah and her husband shared their first dance, cut the cake, and celebrated with loved ones. But I couldn't help anticipating tomorrow's hearing. Patricia's face when she saw me on the bench would be priceless. Sometimes the best revenge isn't responding to insults, it's simply letting karma unfold in its own perfect time. Especially when karma comes with a gavel. 9 and sharp. I adjusted my black robes and entered the courtroom through the judge's chambers, my heels clicking against the polished floor. The bailiff called out, "All rise," as I took my seat at the bench, maintaining the same neutral expression I perfected over years of proceedings. Case number 2025-4872, Richard Harrison versus Patricia Harrison, dissolution of marriage hearing, my clerk announced. I glanced up to see Patricia strutting in, clearly nursing a hangover behind oversized designer sunglasses. She wore another inappropriately tight dress, this time in courthouse inappropriate red. Her attorney, James Morton, whispered something urgently in her ear, probably advising her to remove the sunglasses indoors. "Good morning, Your Honor," Morton began, then froze mid-sentence as Patricia finally removed her sunglasses and saw who sat on the bench. The color drained from her face. "You," Patricia's voice cracked. "You can't be the judge. This is a conflict of interest." "Mrs. Harrison," I spoke calmly. "Any objections to the court's jurisdiction should be properly filed through your counsel." "But you're my ex-husband's wife." She turned to her lawyer. "Do something." Morton looked deeply uncomfortable. "Your Honor, given the circumstances from last evening's event, perhaps we should discuss recusal." "Counselor, are you referring to your client's unauthorized speech at my stepdaughter's wedding? The one where she publicly discussed this very case, claiming, and I quote, 'Richard's loaded, I'll get a fortune in the settlement.'" Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Several attorneys in the gallery tried to hide their smirks. Word of her wedding performance had clearly spread through the legal community. "Those statements," I continued, "along with her accusations about my character, have been preserved on numerous phones and security cameras. Would you like them entered into evidence?" "And no, Your Honor." Morton tugged at his collar. "However, given the personal nature of your client's choice to publicly discuss her divorce strategy at a family wedding?" "Yes, let's address that." I picked up a document. "I have here your motion claiming Mr. Harrison is hiding assets. Interesting timing, given Mrs. Harrison's statement about expecting a fortune." Richard's attorney sat back, clearly enjoying the show. Patricia's fake tan had taken on a greenish tinge. "Furthermore," I continued, "I've reviewed the prenuptial agreement. It appears quite solid, signed with independent counsel, all assets clearly disclosed. Mrs. Harrison agreed to its terms. What was it, 14 months ago?" 13 months and 20 days, Richard's attorney supplied helpfully. "A remarkably short marriage," I noted. "Your fifth, I believe you mentioned last night, Mrs. Harrison." Patricia gripped the table. "This isn't fair. You're biased against me." "Actually," I said, lifting another document, "I was prepared to recuse myself this morning. However, your public statements about this case, combined with your unfounded accusations about my professional integrity, make me question whether you're simply judge shopping." Morton was now frantically scribbling notes. "Your Honor, perhaps we could request a brief recess." Granted. 20 minutes. I stood. "Counselors, my chambers." "Mrs. Harrison, I suggest you use this time to consider your position carefully." "In my chambers." Morton looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. "Your Honor, my client's behavior was unfortunate." "Unfortunate?" Richard's attorney scoffed. "She publicly admitted to marrying for money and expecting to break a prenup. At her daughter's wedding, no less. A wedding where she was clearly intoxicated," I noted. "Which raises concerns about her judgment." Now, gentlemen, let's discuss realistic options. 20 minutes later, we returned to the courtroom. Patricia had reapplied her makeup but couldn't hide her nervous fidgeting. Mrs. Harrison, I addressed her directly. Your counsel has indicated you'd like to make a statement. She stood, hands shaking slightly. Your Honor, I apologize for my behavior last night. I was emotional about my daughter's wedding. Emotional enough to admit your marriage was financially motivated. She glanced at her lawyer. I misspoke. Indeed, just as you misspoke about my character and profession, Patricia's carefully applied foundation couldn't hide her flush. I was wrong to make those accusations. Wrong legally or wrong factually. I raised an eyebrow. Because defaming a sitting judge. Both, she burst out. I was wrong. About everything. I don't actually have evidence of hidden assets, and the prenup is valid. So you're withdrawing your motion? Morgan stood. Yes, Your Honor. Furthermore, my client is prepared to accept the prenuptial terms as written. Very well. I made a note. Given these developments, does either party object to my continuing to preside over this matter? Both attorneys shook their heads. Patricia stared at the floor. Excellent. Then we'll proceed with the dissolution according to the prenuptial agreement's terms. Unless, I glanced at Patricia, you'd like to make any other public statements about your financial expectations. No, Your Honor, she whispered. Wonderful. Then we'll set the final hearing for next month. And Mrs. Harrison. I waited until she met my eyes. I suggest you avoid any further public commentary about this case or about my qualifications to hear it. Clear? She nodded quickly. Court is adjourned. I stood gathering my papers. Oh, and Mrs. Harrison, do remember to dress appropriately for your next appearance. This isn't a nightclub. As I exited through my chambers, I heard Patricia burst into tears. Perhaps she was finally learning that actions and words have consequences, especially when directed at the wrong judge. A month later, I sat in my home office reviewing the final divorce decree. The morning sun streamed through the windows of our historic townhouse, the one Patricia had once sneered at as quaint compared to her mansion. The mansion she now had to sell, according to the prenup's terms. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Mom, you have to see this. Check your email. I opened my inbox to find a forwarded society column. There, in glossy digital print, was Patricia's latest humiliation. Local socialite downsizes. Patricia Harrison, known for her lavish lifestyle and recent courthouse drama, was spotted apartment hunting on the unfashionable East Side. Sources say her fifth divorce didn't yield the fortune she publicly predicted at her daughter's wedding last month, particularly after her ill-advised comments to the presiding judge, who happened to be her ex-husband's new wife. Sometimes karma comes in black robes. The doorbell rang. To my surprise, Patricia stood on my doorstep, looking decidedly less polished than usual. Her designer clothes had been replaced by simple slacks and a blouse. Can we talk? She asked quietly. Please? I considered sending her away, but curiosity won out. Come in. She perched awkwardly on my living room sofa, taking in the antique furniture and art collection she'd never bothered to notice before. I had no idea, she said finally, about any of it. Your family's foundation, your business successes before becoming a judge. Sarah told me everything. Does it matter? I poured myself tea, deliberately not offering her any. Would you have treated me differently if you'd known I came from money? That's what I'm trying to say. She twisted her hands. I wouldn't have, because I was the real gold digger all along. 5 marriages, always looking for more money, better status. And now? Now I'm selling the mansion, moving into a 2-bedroom apartment, and she swallowed hard, taking a job as a receptionist at a law firm. I bit back a smile. The universe had a poetic sense of justice. Sarah says you're helping her start a nonprofit, Patricia continued, teaching financial literacy to women leaving bad marriages. I wonder if I could volunteer. I studied her face, searching for signs of manipulation. Found none. You'd have to start at the bottom, I said. Filing papers, making coffee, learning humility. I know, she straightened her spine. I need to learn who I am without designer labels and rich husbands. Sarah says you did that, worked your way up while getting your law degree, even though you had family money. Because true worth isn't about what you have. I set down my teacup. It's about what you build, what you contribute. Will you help me? Her voice was small. Not for my sake, but for Sarah's. She deserves better than a mother who measures everything by dollar signs. I thought about karma, about justice, about redemption. The nonprofit opens next month. Be there at 8 a.m. sharp. Dress professionally but modestly. And Patricia? I met her eyes. No more speeches about gold diggers. She actually laughed, though it was shaky. God, I was awful. You could have destroyed me in court after what I said. I didn't need to. You did that yourself. I stood, indicating our conversation was over. 8 a.m., business casual. Don't be late. After she left, I called Sarah. Your mother just visited. I know. She called me crying yesterday after reading about her downsizing in the society pages. Asked me to tell her everything about you, about why you became a judge. I think she finally gets it. We'll see. I smiled. But speaking of property, how would you feel about using your mother's old mansion for the nonprofit's headquarters? I hear it's coming on the market at a very reasonable price. Sarah's laughter echoed through the phone. Mom, you're brilliant, making her work in the building she used to own. Sometimes the best lessons require a dose of humility. I glanced at the society pages again. And sometimes justice wears designer labels after all. Love you, Mom. Love you too, sweetheart. Now, shall we discuss the renovation plans for the mansion? I'm thinking the grand ballroom would make an excellent classroom for financial literacy. As I hung up, I couldn't help but smile. Patricia would soon learn that true power isn't about marrying money. It's about earning respect. One coffee run at a time.